At the start of the 1900s, America was restless. Cities were growing fast. The streets were filled with horses and wagons and bicycles. Life was slow. Travel outside of town was hard. Families stayed close to home because a long journey took days. The country needed something faster, something stronger, something new. The wealthy had cars, but they were toys. They broke down often, cost too much, and were almost impossible for ordinary people to own. For most Americans, the car looked like a dream that would never come true, but change was coming. Detroit, Michigan was preparing to shake the world. A man named Henry Ford believed that cars should not belong only to the rich. He wanted to give every American family the power of movement. Ford's dream was dangerous. Factories could fail. Investors could walk away. People could laugh at his vision. Still, he kept pushing forward. The streets of America waited in silence. Ordinary workers, farmers, and shopkeepers had no idea that their lives were about to change forever. The open road, still nothing but mud and dust, would soon become the symbol of American freedom. And when the first revolution in steel and wheels began, it wasn't just about machines. It was about a nation's destiny. The year is 1914. Detroit has become the battlefield of progress. Factories roar with noise. Sparks fly from steel as workers push themselves to the limit. Ford has just introduced the moving assembly line, something the world has never seen before. Instead of one man building a car from start to finish, the work moves step by step. Every worker masters one job. The line keeps rolling, and cars are born faster than anyone can imagine. This is no small change. It is a war against time and cost. A car that once took 12 hours to build can now be finished in 90 minutes. Prices drop, and suddenly the car is no longer a luxury. It is within reach of school teachers, farmers, and factory workers. The streets of Ohio, Illinois, and Pennsylvania fill with Model T cars. Families who once dreamed of freedom can now drive into town, take weekend trips, and see the world beyond their farms. But the revolution comes with new struggles. Roads are not ready. Mud swallows wheels. Rain turns paths into rivers. Driving is dangerous. Still, Americans refuse to stop. Gas stations appear on every corner. Mechanics open shops. The government begins paving highways. The automobile is not just a product. It is a storm sweeping across the nation, changing everything in its path. The Model T wasn't just a car. It was a key. It unlocked the lives of ordinary people. In Kansas, farmers drove their families into town without wagons. In New Jersey, workers lived miles away from factories but still arrived on time. In Ohio, young couples took Sunday road trips just because they could. The car gave America something it had never owned before: independence. Trains still ran, horses still pulled wagons. But cars were different. They offered choice, they gave control. A man no longer needed to follow a timetable. A woman no longer needed to wait for someone to take her into town. The road was theirs. With freedom came business. Diners opened along dirt highways. Motels rose near small towns. Gas stations spread like wildfire. Mechanics found work fixing breakdowns. Entire industries grew, all because Americans refused to give up their cars. But this freedom had risks. Long drives meant accidents. Bad roads claimed lives. Gas shortages brought frustration. Yet none of it stopped the movement. America was hooked. Cars had become more than steel. They had become a way of life. Every journey was a statement. Every drive was a declaration. The open road belonged to the people, and they would never give it back. The car was more than just a tool. It was status. It was pride. By the 1920s and 30s, cars were a symbol of wealth and power. In Chicago, driving downtown was a chance to show off your new car. In Texas, a Cadillac was proof that you had made it. And in Detroit, the birthplace of the auto industry, cars were a way of life. The competition was fierce. Chevrolet, Dodge, and Chrysler entered the fight. Factories ran day and night. Each company wanted to win America's heart. The result: faster cars, stronger cars, and more stylish designs. Cars became a form of entertainment. Teenagers in California raced on empty streets. Families in Michigan packed their trunks and headed for lakes and picnics. The car was no longer just a means of transportation. It was culture. It was freedom wrapped in chrome and gasoline. The media pushed the obsession even further. Movies showed heroes speeding across deserts. Songs filled the radio with dreams of the highway. Advertisements promised romance, adventure, and success, all through owning a car. But with love came danger. Traffic filled the streets of New York. Accidents rose and crowds questioned the future, yet Americans could not walk away. The car had become too important, too personal. This wasn't just an invention anymore. It was an addiction, and it was spreading faster than anyone could stop. After winning World War II, America was back in the game, and soldiers were coming home. That meant one thing: the American dream was back on the road. Suburbs grew, highways expanded, and President Eisenhower's interstate system cut across the nation, coast to coast. The car was no longer a dream. It was a necessity. Families in California loaded up station wagons for road trips. Teenagers in New York cruised on Saturday nights. Workers in Texas drove pickups to oil fields. The car defined life. Without it, America could not function. The highway was not just pavement. It was a stage. Families laughed in the back seats. Lovers held hands under the stars at drive-in theaters. Business deals were made from behind the wheel. Cars carried stories, secrets, and memories. But highways also brought new challenges. Pollution choked cities. Traffic turned commutes into battles. Oil crises shook the economy. Still, Americans held tight. The car was not just part of their lives. It was their life. And by the 1950s and 60s, America was no longer falling in love with cars. America was already married to them. Cars became more than machines. They became mirrors of who Americans were. A pickup truck in Oklahoma meant strength and work. A Mustang in Detroit meant speed and rebellion. A Cadillac in Texas meant wealth and power. Young Americans wanted muscle cars, Camaro, Charger, and Mustang. Racing wasn't just a sport. It was a lifestyle. From Daytona to small-town tracks, speed was worshipped. Noise, smoke, and adrenaline filled the culture. Meanwhile, families valued safety and space. Minivans carried kids to school. Station wagons lined the suburban driveways. The car was the silent witness of American life, birthdays, occasions, heartbreaks, and reunions. But identity came at a cost. Crashes killed thousands. Highways consumed land. Oil addiction created foreign struggles. The love for cars was powerful, but it was dangerous too. Yet nothing changed the truth. Americans saw themselves in their cars. Every engine roar was a heartbeat. Every road trip was a dream. Every mile was a story. Let's talk about cars. Yeah, decades passed. From the Model T to the Mustang, from the Cadillac to the Tesla, cars never left America's heart. The technology changed. Electric engines, self-driving systems, new designs, but the feeling stayed the same. Cars gave freedom. They gave independence. They gave identity. They turned ordinary lives into journeys. They turned empty roads into adventures. They shaped cities, suburbs, and the American dream itself. Even today, America cannot imagine life without cars. In Detroit, factories still roar. In California, Teslas glide down freeways. In Texas, trucks thunder across highways. On Route 66, tourists chase nostalgia. Cars remain everywhere in every story. Yes, there are challenges: climate change, crowded streets, rising costs. But none of it breaks the bond. Cars are not just machines. They are America's passion. They are America's history. They are America's future. And that is how America fell in love with cars.